If you remember on the state level, okay, we spoke about there's several ways to get basically a restoration of rights, and that would be a pardon, that'd be go through the restoration of rights process, or that'd be what we call getting deferred adjudication, or if you've gotten on probation to get judicial clemency. And judicial clemency is essentially where their conviction is set aside by the judge once you get off of probation. And so normally, in a deferred adjudication standpoint, we talked about what deferred adjudication is several times on the show. Won't go too far into it, but essentially you don't have a judgment of conviction. It's deferring adjudication. They put off, defer adjudication, or otherwise judgment. So they put it off. You don't have a conviction, so you don't lose your rights. You're not a convicted felon.
Right.
You complete your probation, and it kind of just goes away. The case gets dismissed, and you're discharged. There's other people who take probation. That means they actually have a conviction. So that's a problem. The only benefit they're getting to the probation versus the deferred adjudication probation is that they're
not in jail.
Not in jail, exactly. That's the only benefit really to the probation.
Well, that's a good benefit, I think.
It is. I'm not saying that it's not, okay? But a lot of times, you know, what makes a district attorney offer deferred adjudication versus probation? What makes it different? The circumstances. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it merely comes down to who was the district attorney at the time that made the offer and how good of a day he had, right? And what your defense attorney was, how much you were paying him.
That's scary. That's scary. You got to worry about how good a day he's having as compared to
everybody's human.
I know. So, but it should be a standard of it's because of this you get this. If it's because of this you get that.
Well, there are a lot of good district attorneys, and I'm not saying the ones here are not good. I'm just saying there's a lot of good defense district attorneys who go by some sort of roadmap, but a lot of times, you know, life is too weird, right, to follow a roadmap, and some circumstances just don't fall within the thing, so sometimes they got to make a decision, and sometimes their human biases play on them like anybody else at their day of work. Okay, and so I'm not criticizing them at all. I'm just saying, sometimes there's really no distinction in why somebody got probation versus deferred adjudication.
Can I sidebar you on a second? Does a female judge have more potential times to have a bad day?
Man, I am not even going there. I'm not even going to go there, man. You're crazy if you think I'm going there. I'm videotaped too. No. I was going back to the program. What were we talking about?
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Hey,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I love some call-ins on it, but you ain't getting me to go there.
Just wondering.
So what's the difference between probation and deferred adjudication? We just talked about, and sometimes the circumstances don't really, it doesn't explain why somebody got one versus the other. So with that being said, right, it's important, I think, that people have the opportunity to ask for judicial clemency so that they can also have their convictions set aside, their indictment set aside, and the disabilities from having a felony conviction, right, set aside with those. Okay, so that's what the whole point of judicial clemency is. If you get it when you get off early, if you qualify for early termination of probation, right, and you're able to get off, you can, at that time when they let you off, you can ask the judge, right, to set aside the conviction under the statute. And don't ask me the number right now because I can't remember, but that part's irrelevant to the purpose of the conversation, which is, it's very important that you know your rights and that you ask for judicial clemency. Okay, it's going to save you a lot of heartache down the road. It's going to save you a lot of expense down the road. It's going to save you a lot of time down the road. And at the time that I brought back up, this has always been around. It's been around since I've been a lawyer. It wasn't really known by a lot of lawyers. I made a lot of money off of it at the very beginning because I was one of the few defense attorneys who knew that you could use it, right? And we used it, so to speak. And there wasn't a lot of regulations about it because nobody knew it. In fact, I will even lie. I'll tell you the truth. I snuck it in there a lot of times in early termination things when the DA didn't even know it was coming. And he had no idea. It was brand new. And so, but now it's its own section. They've put it in there. They've made it its own thing. This legislature wants you to use it, probably because they probably made it its own thing because DAs were probably getting tricked, didn't know, and wanted it to have notice. And then there were people that weren't utilizing it that the legislature probably wanted to utilize. I haven't done a lot of history. The point is, it's its own. It's part of a bigger section now, and it's more pronounced. And you've got a right to ask every judge in the state, and the judges across the state are supposed to use the same form, and this is important. they're supposed to use the same form, okay, to when they discharge you. You either get a discharge of probation, okay, and you still got your conviction, or you get a discharge with judicial clemency. And there's basically a check box, right, on this form, or just like a initial box, but the form is essentially the same. And my opinion is that that's because we're supposed to have notice, and they're supposed to give you guys a right, okay, to ask for and get the opportunity to utilize judicial clemency.
We got a call. Let's see if this is pertaining to this. Welcome to the show. You're on the Aaron's High Cabinet Radio program. Who we got, and what do you need to ask Ross?
This is Judge Isaacs, Matthew. I'm fixing to have a bad day.
Oh, no, Judge. Why? I hope it's nothing I did, Judge. What's going on?
You know, I was listening. Everything's lovely with me, but don't you know?
Okay, say it again. You're breaking up.
Yeah, I'm out here in the middle of the country, so I'll stop. So maybe I can pick you up better. When you're talking about the last question you asked about why is this not this, that not, you know, why is there not a cookie cutter deal on every offense?
Are you talking about when I said? Are you talking about when I said why does a judge have one decision one day and another decision another day?
Right.
Okay.
Right. You have to take each case by its merits. You don't want a cookie cutter. The federal government's got that in some cases right now because judges were all over the place.
Sentencing guys.
But you do not want you want a judge to in some cases we need to have grace. In some cases you got to come down hard on them. It all depends a lot on the offense and all the circumstances surrounding it. And you want the judge to be able to. Now, I know some judges that are just like ounce of brains, okay? And so does your.
At least you said it, not me.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell them to their face, okay? I don't bother me not one bit to tell them straight up. But you do not want the same. You don't want it to be like that because that gives you no leeway on what to do. Like I said, the federal government's got some of those deals where if you get convicted of this is your punishment.
And it's extremely
and they
problematic.
Don't look at the extended circumstances or nothing. Yeah, or nothing. So you have to be able to have flexibility in what you're doing. You have to be able to have flexibility in what you're doing because if you don't, it becomes chaos.
Well, the way you're presenting it, Judge, I totally concur with you. I'm not taking anything away from Ross either. I was just getting at, I didn't want somebody because they had a bad day to miss what they're supposed to be doing because they had a bad day. Now, how you explained it, I get it. You should have that leniency to make a decision based on all the elements. I was just saying I didn't want somebody to forget a step because they just had a bad day. That's all.
You know, I sat there in a class one time and listened to a judge say that I will not convict somebody just because DPS says it so. Those guys are out there doing their job. They're not up there sending us lies. So why, you're just not going to convict? I'm like, man, that's a nightmare. That's having a bad day. You can't. If you're having a bad day, just back off for a while. Don't make a decision for a while because you could table stuff and wait for a while before you have to make a decision. There's nothing that has to be done right now.
Well, the power that you have is amazing. It can devastate somebody's life forever based on a bad decision. I mean, it's going to happen sometimes. I get it. It's the human element to things. It's just that you want to be on top of your game in all facets of who you are, mentally, emotionally.
I'll tell you a quick one that will take but a second. DPS wrote a guy a ticket, but they didn't send him the ticket for like 3 weeks, okay? What happened was a man was driving, he's in the dozer business, he's next to the railroad tracks, had to unload his dozer next to the railroad tracks. When he unloaded it, the trailer hopped up on the tracks. He tried to pull it off with his truck, couldn't pull it off, went back and tried to get it off with the dozer, here come a train. So he had to bail off the dozer, he lost everything. Truck, trailer, dozer, all. And then 2 weeks later, here comes a ticket. Now, is that guy not down enough? He lost his whole business. Now we got to give him a ticket too? No. So that's where the judge got to come in and say, hey, he suffered enough. Okay, he suffered enough. I realize that this may be a ticketable offense, and this may be something you charge him with. But I said, this is, we just can't keep killing a man after he's down. And, at the same time, there's other situations where, man, they need a ticket. They need to pay a fine. In some cases, they need to go to jail.
That's why it's so important. That's why it's so important for the population to review the potential candidates for positions that you have, Judge, and make sure that we get the right people on the job. And,
exactly.
And I think you're doing a great job. So keep it up.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the show.
Hey, thank you for calling in.
Talk to you soon. That was a nice little treat.
It was, yeah, it was. It really was.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question before we get started up again. I want to break it down in a very simple state, since I'm a simple person using 50-cent words for those of us out there who are trying to get this. What you just said was, if you get probation taken off early, or you get some type of clemency...
It doesn't have to be early, but if you're going to get early probation, you need to make sure you ask for it too.
So if you screwed up, but for some reason, good behavior, whatever, you get it cut off short, it enables you to get that box to say, I want my rights restored? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And essentially right. So whenever you're going to ask to get discharged from probation, just make sure that you talk to your lawyer or even the probation officer. Ask for,
That's a phenomenal piece of information.
But here's the problem, right? A lot of times when you're about to be done or you're done, the probation officer just sends the motion over to the judge. You may know it's coming, but you don't know it's coming right now. And they may just send their little motion to terminate probation over to discharge you.
Yeah, I know, but
the judge sign it.
But if the person is aware of what you just said, he can say to his attorney, "Hey, man, before you do that."
So, and the problem is, you're probably not going to be involved with your attorney if your probation is pretty long. Okay, so you need to tell your attorney, "Hey, if you're going to get early termination, go talk to an attorney first. Let him help you. Go to the DA and the probation officer and the judge and talk about this, or just tell your probation officer, I would like to do judicial clemency. I want to try for this." If you're going to ask for me to be discharged, I want at least an opportunity for that. And here's the thing. The courts have now been clear, and it hasn't been clear before for a very long time, right, when they could grant you this judicial clemency. And it's pretty clear now. There's really no argument otherwise that you've got 30 days from the time you're discharged. So they either need to do it at the time of discharge or within 30 days.
What if somebody's got a slight tainted background of other convictions that weren't really major deals, but they were still convicted, and they just heard what you said? Could they go run out and do something bad to get a cheap probation and then be a really good person?
Well, it only restores everything for that one charge. So you're not going to get, if you've already had several previous, it's not going to restore you for all those others.
Always looking for loopholes.
So no, it would if they were all together. And they ran all these 3 or 4 offenses concurrently, and you went 10 years on probation and did what you were supposed to do. Maybe if they were about to terminate at the same time. But that's the problem. You may get them run concurrent. That means at the same time simultaneously. Okay? But one may be a 3-year probation, 5-year probation, 7-year, and 10-year. Well, they're each going to end at 3, 5, 7, and 10. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that when they discharge you from each one of those during that period, you get clemency on each one of those.
Because if you don't on one, then you're screwed on them all.
Yeah, it's like what's the point? Then you're going to have to come back and do what I'm trying to tell you with the pardon or some of the restoration of rights project. And so if you can get judicial clemency and you can get it, do it, try it, because that would be really important. It's going to save you having to do other things down the road that'll be a whole lot more difficult. It's just a lot of people don't know about judicial clemency, so they aren't asking. They aren't making, and there's supposed to be one form right now that judges are supposed to be using from promulgated by the state. A lot of them aren't.
Does the person not know, or is it just the attorney doesn't know too, or the attorney just doesn't feel like they should bring it up in some cases?
Well, the attorney can bring it up, but if it's a 10-year probation, you're going to have to remember whenever you're getting off.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Even if it's a 3-year probation, the guy's going to have to remember 3 years later.
I'd get calendars stacked up on top of each other and have post-it notes. It's getting close.
But what if they want to early terminate you in a year and a half? You got to make sure, even if you get early termination, you got to make sure you ask for that judicial clemency. So you need to make sure you ask your probation officer. And a lot of times they'll tell the judge, yeah, judge, this is a good checkbox right here because he's done really good. It's good for society, right? And here's the circumstances.
Does it apply to people under adult age?
That juveniles is a different program. Okay. Different program. You can get your stuff sealed, probably depending on what kind of charges you got. So let's not go in there. But for these purposes, if your probation officer then says, well, I don't know about that, well, then go talk to the attorney and get them to file a motion for you, and you can go ask the judge personally. But believe me, if you've done good on probation, you paid your fees, and you're otherwise doing really well, sometimes that best advocate is going to be that probation officer, right? They're going to be your best advocate. I know right here that a lot of times,
I know there's a lot of people out there who've got a challenge like this. If you got a question, you need to be calling 254-697-6633.
A lot of folks that I can tell you right now in Milam and Falls County, a lot of times, right, the probation officers are your advocates to get off early, right? If you've done everything you're supposed to do and you've paid fees and you've been a good reporter, and they feel like you're trying to make a better citizen in society, those probation officers are awesome as far as to get you out of there.
Yeah, build a relationship with them. Say like, I've done.
And that's what
things,
people
blah,
don't
blah,
understand.
blah.
They want to argue and act stupid, like Squirrel said. You can't
You
fix
could
stupid.
open up a school, a profitable school with that. And say, look, if you got a criminal record and you need to know how to approach the parole officers, whatever, come to my school. It's cheap. Put it on a credit card. Pay it out for the rest of your life.
Well, so now I told you how to do a judicial clemency. I do want to say it's important to do that because there's the Restoration of Rights Project, right, to go through the ATF. Okay, I was wondering why. I've never done it through, if you had a federal conviction and you're trying to get your restoration of rights done through the ATF, right, as a convicted felon. I didn't understand why I couldn't get a lot of information, why there wasn't a lot of attorneys doing it. When I was trying to refer people, I couldn't find anybody that would do it. And so then I started doing my own research. I said, I don't really do this, but I'm going to look into it. And sure enough, I found that, here's the thing, and this is crazy to me. There's an avenue for restoring your rights if you've got a felony conviction on the federal level, going through the ATF and getting your gun rights back.
Wow.
But it's unfunded. So essentially, it would be like you can fill out the application. You have the right to do that. You have the right to get your gun rights back. You can submit the application, but there will not be a clerk there to receive the application and process it because they're not being paid. So the government has not funded the program. So essentially,
the silence on my part has to do because my jaw's open. It's like, are you serious?
So they've made this avenue available. It is there.
Can you hand carry it?
From what I've been told by some people who've even asked me to help them do this, is that they've seen a bunch of posts and blogs on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram of people saying that they called the ATF today and begged them. They said they would pay an investigator. They would pay for all of this stuff themselves. They would pay this much money, and the ATF just said, well, we can't allow you to do that. So, and that's obvious. You can't let them pay, but it's just there's no money.
I'm not good at this, Ross. How would the public be able to go, who would they talk to say, hey, get this changed? Any idea?
Yes, they're congressmen.
That would be the proper
right.
avenue?
I mean, there could possibly be a way to approach the administrative agency about it and talk to them about their own budgeting, but from what I've read, it's not really so much the agency's failure to budget as much as it is just the actual funding coming from Congress.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. I know a lot of people out there who have a problem with some type of criminal charges on their record that prohibits them from their rights and getting a firearm, and they're very good people. They just made a stupid mistake. So this is something you should bring up. Maybe I need to find somebody who can get on here and talk about that. That'd be great.
Right. I mean, I can tell you there's been several that have called me about, a 30-year-old conviction. Just happened to be on a federal level. Even the feds at the time thought it was a very light deal. Maybe we're using that person as leverage really to get to another person.
I look at it this way, too. You got people who are under 21 and 21 supposedly the big deal.
Exactly.
Okay?
Two of the cases that called me, they were 19.
Yeah, that's just dumb stuff.
And ended up getting a federal charge when they were in college, and it was for something, like, because they lied to get a better application for a dorm room or something.
Don't misunderstand me, ladies and gentlemen. If you're doing stupid stuff that's very bad, of course, by all means. I'm talking the stupid, silly stuff that you do when you're stupid and young, okay? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Right, and there's been a few of those. And so those types of guys I really wanted to help. I've really been stressing out trying to find a good way to do it. But what do you do when there's no clerk to accept the application? There's nobody to process it. I mean, what are you supposed to do? So, the other way to do it is to get a pardon. Okay, and of course you're not going to go to President Trump. Most likely it's going to go to a committee, some kind of commission, right before him. But that would be your option if you can get a restoration of rights here on the state level, but that requires you to have a pardon, which first now, and so it hadn't always been that clear. But you're going to have to get that pardon now in order to file that restoration of rights application, which don't even start asking me questions.
I'm going to ask you one question, though. Why do you think that clerk is not being funded? Is that just like an oversight, or are they purposely doing that? We're going to tease you. It's just like
I don't think it's oversight. I mean, it's been like that for a while. There's been several complaints. I mean, you can start Googling ATF unfunded restoration of rights program, and it goes back all the way to like 14, 13 for them not to have funding. So they've known about it for a long time, and there's been legislators and congressmen both try to pass laws to remedy the problem, but we're just not getting a lot of answers about why it's not funded, and so there could just be some other priority tax considerations.
I'm making notes as you're talking because I'm going to try and find somebody to come on here.
Which is why I thought it was important to talk about today when I found out it was really unfunded. I didn't have any proof. I've talked to enough people now and enough attorneys who tried to go through it. I've seen enough information, enough some proposed bills to realize, yeah, it's not funded. So maybe they've done it in 19. Maybe there's some stuff and I haven't figured it out because it's just January. It's just going into February. And so maybe it's going to be funded in 19, but I haven't seen any indication that it will be.
Okay. Time's a ticking here. Did you cover pretty much what you wanted to cover on this particular topic?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I told people we're going to be talking about.
If you have questions, email me on that. Call me.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a real big one.
Because that one can be all over the place.
Yeah. I had people asking me about traffic stops again. What you do after not traffic stops, but after a shoot, and the police are coming. What you should do to protect yourself. Can you help us out on that one?
I think from your standpoint, you can know a lot of the scenarios. You can say they're going to come through this window. What am I going to do? If they come through this door, what am I going to do? If they come through this back door, what am I going to do? And you can have a set plan, I think, for a lot of instances. Right? What happens after? It's hard to get a set standard, okay? And each case is going to be judged on its own facts, own merits, as the judge said. And I think that it's hard for me to give you a list. A lot of websites and stuff is going to try to give you a list. I think it's better that you just know your rights, know what you were able to do, right, and make sure you're calmed down. Now, if your wife or whoever you are, oh my gosh, you killed him! I killed him! If somebody's like that, you need to call your lawyer first. The NRA is going to give you advice to call your lawyer first.
Duct tape too.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something else. Hold that thought. But the NRA is going to say to call your lawyer first. Man, I don't know. I mean, for me, that kind of looks suspicious at first. If I'm a cop, I mean, why do you need to?
Because this day and age, people take your words, and spin it like crazy.
And so I mean, there's just no good answer to tell you. It's always a good idea to call your lawyer, though, in a situation like that. At what point in time? I don't know if I'd want to be on scene if I was a lawyer before the cops showed up because they're thinking I was telling you where to put the bodies or something. And I don't want them to think that we were messing with evidence at a crime scene. And so I think that you probably should, right, stay out of areas where there's going to be evidence because you don't want to contaminate that against you. Of course, I had a buddy that just got back from the Las Vegas big firearm conference. They have one of the biggest in the world.
Shot.
Yes, and he brings back gun residue sterilizer and for pre-sterilizing the scene. I just playing. But they do have that. They do have that sort of thing to clean off your gunpowder, gunshot residue. Anyway, that could come in handy once or twice. And that was a long time ago. Statute ran, but
looking suspicious. How does that not look suspicious? Clint Smith, the guy who runs Thunder Ranch. I heard him say one time, when the police come, one of the first things you should say, first, secure your weapon. Okay, let them see your hands, identify who you are, and then
because they will shoot if they're gonna try to make sure there's no threats there.
And then say, even though the guy's dead and bleeding on your carpet, I want that man arrested to make it look like he's the bad guy and not me, you know. And then I'll answer who I am. I live here. Show you my ID. I'll give you a quick synopsis. He broke in. I stopped him. I want him arrested. Now I want my attorney.
Just remember, you're going to have the presumption. So if we're talking about a breaking into a house scenario, you're going to have the presumption that you were allowed to use deadly force, and that's going to be one that's going to be a pretty difficult to overcome for the state.
I wasn't too worried about that scenario. I'm talking about you're on the street because, you know, this is a stand your ground state. And if I tell people, you know, if the police come at 3 o'clock in the morning and the guy's bleeding out on your living room carpet, the odds say you'll have a choice of sleeping in a hotel or in your house that night. Or
if you're on
did
the street,
same thing, and you got 12 people with 12 different vantage points, the odds say you're going to be downtown for a while.
if you're on the street and there's no witnesses, it's just you and him, I would say, yeah, don't talk to the police. You talk to your lawyer. You're probably going to be arrested too at that point. I don't see any other way around it. If there's other witnesses saying what happened, who knows what could happen at that point. If you're calm enough to talk to the police, I'd say, and it's very clear what happened, and there's witnesses to back your story up, I'd say it's not a bad idea to tell the police officer. But if you feel like you're just stressed out and like you really are just trying to catch your breath, you're anxious, just tell the police officer, look, man, I can't talk right now. I need to collect my thoughts.
I think we're missing a step. What about, to get the police officer there, the odds say you would have called 911. What do you think's a proper procedure?
I'm assuming that if you're in the shootout and there's a witness there, in that scenario, that somebody probably would have already called the cops. When you do call, if you're the one to call, right, you need to be very careful that you know what to say, because if you call 911, remember that is recorded. Right, that is recorded. Absolutely. And so just make sure that, and I mean, you got to treat that 911 operator like any kind of law enforcement officer, because the questions she asks you are going to be investigative in nature, and it's going to be initiated by you, so it's going to be admissible. Okay, and if you're not calm enough to explain that scenario, don't call 911. I mean, that's the simple point of that. I mean, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
There's a lot of interesting things. That's why, ladies and gentlemen,
that may sound shady coming from my point, but you can go read several.
No, that's protection.
You can go read several bits of information on that, but you got to realize, why would you not want to call 911? Maybe the person can be helped.
I want to use our mathematical formula again. Mindset plus mechanics equals response time. And I'm focusing on the mindset aspect of it. If we understand and are mentally prepared that there's a chance in our lifetime that we could or maybe need to or have to use deadly force, when the time comes, if we're prepared when it comes to the mechanics of it, if we're prepared about what the aftermath could potentially be, and we know what our red lines are in the sand, or our lines are in the sand, and it happens, we're going to be much more prepared than we are if we haven't mentally prepared and we don't know our mechanics and we don't realize the aftermath effects of what you have to do. You're going to be in a deep doo-doo, okay? So get yourself prepared now, so that when it comes time for somebody like Ross or Rick to help you guys out, they have a much better fighting chance of winning.
That's what I think your best plan is. For step one is to know your rights and know how to use your weapon and know your surroundings, be trained right before the situation happens. That way, right, you're able to adjust and adapt to the facts of life and circumstances as they present themselves on that day.
Okay, Ross, we're out of time. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you?
Again, email me. A lot of people have been emailing Benton@watson.legal. That's BENTON @watson.legal. You can give us a call at 254-605-4140. That's 254-605-4140. If you email us, do leave your phone number so that we can call you back. If you want to holler at us, come to the 105 East Main Street here in Cameron, or call us. We can have an appointment in College Station, Bryan area, Houston. Big milk cow on the side here in Cameron. You can't miss it. Just looking forward to it. Thank you, Rick Dodd, and again, respectforyou.com.
Very good. Everybody, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have the delicious Janae Goodman. We're talking Super Bowl snacks. See you on the other side.